Hello, friends. You're watching Affection Unbound. Real life, real twists. Let's begin the journey. I never imagined my life would shatter on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in Seattle, but that's exactly how it happened. I'd been away for what was supposed to be a 5-day conference in San Francisco, pitching Cliffordetting strategies to tech startups. The event wrapped up early, my presentation nailed it, and the organizers let us out a day ahead. I decided to surprise my husband, Clifford Reynolds, by catching the first flight home. No calls, no texts, just me showing up with his favorite takeout from that little Thai place downtown. We'd been married 8 years, built a cozy life in our craftsman bungalow in Capitol Hill. Or so I thought. The cab dropped me off around 2 p.m., the streets slick with Pacific Northwest drizzle. Clifford's truck was in the driveway, which was odd. He usually worked late at the construction firm. Maybe he took the day off, I reasoned, my heart fluttering with excitement. I unlocked the front door quietly, shaking off my umbrella, and stepped inside. The house smelled different, a mix of unfamiliar perfume and something sweeter like vanilla candles. Our living room was dim, curtains drawn, but I heard voices upstairs. Low murmurs, then a giggle that wasn't mine. My stomach twisted. I set down the takeout bag and crept up the stairs, each step creaking under my weight despite my efforts to be silent. Our bedroom door was cracked open, spilling a sliver of light into the hallway. I pushed it gently, and there they were. Clifford and a woman I'd never seen before, wrapped up in our king-sized bed, the one we'd splurged on during our anniversary trip to Portland. She was younger, with long blonde hair splayed across my pillow, and he was laughing that deep, easy laugh I used to love. The sheets were rumpled, a bottle of wine half empty on the nightstand next to our framed wedding photo from the Olympic Peninsula. They didn't notice me at first, too absorbed in each other. I stood there, frozen, the world narrowing to a pinpoint. It wasn't rage that hit me, it was a cold, emptying void, like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. My chest ached from the flight, but this pain was deeper, burrowing into my soul. 10 seconds, maybe 20. I watched, memorizing every detail, the way her hand traced his back, the tattoo on her shoulder that looked like a cheap knockoff of something trendy. Then I backed away, silent as a shadow, down the stairs and out the door. I didn't slam it, I didn't scream. I just left, hailing another cab on the street corner, my suitcase still in hand. The ride to downtown felt eternal, rain streaking the windows like tears I refused to shed. I directed the driver to a coffee shop near Pioneer Square, where I sat in a corner booth, nursing a latte that tasted like ash. My mind raced, piecing together the fragments I'd ignored for months. Late nights at work, sudden gym memberships, texts he deleted too quickly. But seeing it? That changed everything. I wasn't going to crumble. No, I was going to rebuild, on my terms. By the time the coffee went cold, I'd made my first call. To Riley Klein, my college roommate turned family law attorney in Bellevue. We'd stayed close. She owed me for introducing her to her husband years ago. "Emily," she answered, surprise in her voice. "Aren't you still in Cali?" "Plans changed," I said flatly. "I need your help. Now." I laid it out. The affair, the scene I'd walked in on. Riley didn't interrupt, just listened, then sighed. "Okay, we're doing this right. Meet me at my office in an hour." I spent the wait on my phone, logging into our joint accounts. We'd always shared finances. Clifford handled the bills, but I'd set up the apps. Quietly, I transferred half the savings, $47,000, into a new account I'd opened solo last year for emergencies. It wasn't theft, it was protection. Washington was a community property state, but I wasn't leaving anything to chance. Riley's office was sleek, all glass and modern art overlooking Lake Washington. She hugged me tight when I arrived, then got down to business. "First, documentation," she said, sliding a notepad across. I described everything, and she nodded. "We'll file for divorce tomorrow. Irreconcilable differences, but we'll cite adultery for leverage on assets. I pulled out my phone again, showing her the home security app. We'd installed cameras after a neighborhood break-in: living room, kitchen, hallway. The bedroom one was motion activated. I hadn't checked it yet, but now I did. There it was, time-stamped footage of Clifford and the woman entering the house at noon, heading upstairs. Clear as day. Riley's eyes widened. This is gold. We can use it for a protective order if needed. Next, we tackled the house. It was in both our names, but I'd put down the down payment from my inheritance. Riley drafted a motion to freeze joint assets and restrict access. Change the locks tonight, she advised. And the garage code. List him as unauthorized on the alarm. I nodded, feeling a strange calm settle over me. This wasn't vengeance. It was survival. Clifford thought I was weak, the supportive wife who overlooked his stresses. He was wrong. By evening, I'd checked into a hotel in Belltown, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. I called a locksmith from there. 24/7 service, no questions asked. While he worked, I packed Clifford's things into boxes: clothes, tools, that stupid collection of baseball cards. I left them on the porch, covered with a tarp against the rain. Then I reset everything: Wi-Fi password, streaming accounts, even the thermostat app. Our dog, Bailey, a golden retriever we'd adopted together, stayed with me. Clifford had never walked him anyway. My phone buzzed. Texts from him. Where are you? Conference over early? I ignored them. Let him wonder. Riley emailed the preliminary papers. I'd sign in the morning. But I wasn't done. I knew the woman's face from the video, sharp features, that tattoo. A quick reverse image search on my laptop from a screenshot led to her Instagram, Kayla Brent, a barista at the coffee shop near his job site. Public profile, full of selfies and vague posts about new beginnings. I didn't message her. Instead, I noted her workplace, her friends tagged in photos. Knowledge was power. The next morning, I woke to pounding on the hotel door. No, that was my heart. Actually, it was my phone. 15 missed calls from Clifford. Voicemails pleading confusion, then anger. Emily, what the hell? The key doesn't work. I listened to one, his voice cracking, and felt nothing but resolve. Riley met me at a cafe, papers in hand. We filed electronically. Divorce petition, asset freeze, request for exclusive use of the home. By noon, a process server was en route to his office. But I had one more move. Clifford's truck, leased under my name. I'd co-signed because his credit was shot from student loans. I called the dealership in Tacoma, invoked the early termination clause. They'd repo it that afternoon, no notice required. As for finances, I flagged unauthorized charges, hotel stays, dinners, gifts that weren't for me. Some dipped into my freelance income, protected as separate property. Riley added fraud claims, tying it to potential IRS review since he'd claimed deductions on joint taxes. Watching from across the street in Riley's car, coffee in hand, I saw the tow truck arrive at his work parking lot. Clifford stormed out, arguing with the driver, face red. His co-workers watched, whispering. He called me then, furious. This is insane, Emily. What's going on? I didn't answer. Let the papers explain. Kayla would get her own surprise, an anonymous tip to her boss about personal conduct affecting the workplace, backed by timestamps showing her leaving early for meetups. It wasn't cruel. It was consequence. By sunset, Clifford was served at a motel. He'd texted a friend, unaware I had access to his cloud backups. The fallout began. His boss called about distractions. Friends distanced themselves. I didn't gloat. I just moved forward, Bailey at my side, in a house that finally felt like mine. The days blurred into a calculated routine after that. I threw myself into work, landing a promotion at the agency. Turns out, channeling Heartbreak into pitches made me unstoppable. Riley kept me updated. The divorce was progressing, assets divided evenly on paper, but with my evidence, I got the house outright. Clifford fought it at first, hiring some cut-rate lawyer from Tacoma who tried to paint me as vindictive. But the footage spoke volumes. The judge barely glanced at his arguments. "Adultery has consequences," she said dryly, signing off on the settlement. Clifford ended up with half the savings I'd left untouched, his tools, and a hefty alimony bill since I'd out-earned him for years. He moved into a dingy apartment in Renton, the kind with thin walls and no view. I heard through mutual friends he'd lost his job. Too many personal days during the affair, plus the repo drama didn't help his reputation. But the real unraveling started with Kayla. My tip to her coffee shop chain's HR, anonymous of course, with screenshots from her social media showing her posting during shifts about secret lunches, led to a quiet investigation. She was fired within a week for time theft and unprofessional conduct. Her Instagram went private, but not before I saw the fallout. Vague stories about toxic workplaces and starting over. Clifford's texts turned desperate then, begging for a meeting, swearing it was a mistake. She meant nothing, Emily. It was just stress from work. I blocked him, forwarded everything to Riley for the record. No more games. I wasn't playing the forgiving wife. I was done being the backdrop to his mess. Weeks later, I drove to my parents' place in Olympia, a modest ranch house overlooking Puget Sound. Mom and Dad had always been my rock, blue-collar folks who'd scrimped to send me to college. They'd liked Clifford at first, but sensed his laziness early on. "He rides your coattails," Dad once muttered over Thanksgiving turkey. Now, as I pulled up, Mom was waiting on the porch with fresh coffee. Inside, I laid it all out. The betrayal, the locks, the legal moves. Dad's face hardened, but Mom hugged me fierce. "You did right, honey, but there's more, isn't there?" I nodded, pulling out a folder similar to the one I'd shown Riley. Inside, bank statements showing Clifford had funneled money from our joint account to Kayla. Gifts, trips to the San Juan Islands disguised as business expenses. Worse, some funds traced back to my 401k contributions, which he'd accessed via a forgotten power of attorney. Riley had flagged it as embezzlement, potentially criminal if I pushed. I didn't stop there. Clifford's family, his smug sister Elaine in Spokane, who'd always hinted I wasn't domestic enough, got a visit from me the following weekend. I showed up unannounced, folder in hand, at their annual barbecue. Elaine answered the door, her smile fading fast. "Emily? Clifford said you were traveling." I stepped inside, greeted his parents politely. Over potato salad, I revealed the affair, the footage summaries, blurred for decency, and the financial trail. "He used family money too," I said, pointing to transfers from a shared inheritance account they'd set up. Elaine blanched. His dad, a retired mechanic, went quiet. "We trusted him with that," he murmured. By the time I left, the whispers had started. Clifford was cut off from their support. No more loans, no holiday invites. Elaine texted me later. "How could you?" "Simple," I replied. "Truth hurts." The climax came at mediation. Clifford sat across the table in Riley's conference room, looking haggard. Kayla nowhere in sight. His lawyer pushed for reconciliation. I countered with the fraud docs. "Press charges or settle," Riley said coolly. He signed everything. Full house to me, no alimony after 6 months, repayment plan for the siphoned funds. As he left, he whispered, "I never meant to lose you." I met his eyes. "You didn't lose me. You threw me away." That night, I sold his baseball cards on eBay, donated the proceeds to a women's shelter in Seattle. Bailey and I walked Green Lake, the autumn leaves crunching underfoot, and for the first time, I breathed free. Months turned to a year. I remodeled the house. New paint, soft blues like the sound, a home office where the betrayal bed once stood. I dated casually, nothing serious, rediscovering laughs over craft beer in Fremont. Work thrived. I started mentoring young women in Cliffordetting, sharing stories, anonymized, about resilience. Clifford? Last I heard, he bounced jobs, Ended up managing a warehouse in Everett. Kayla moved back to Idaho, per her locked-down Facebook. No revenge posts from me, just quiet thriving. I volunteered at animal rescues, hiked Mount Rainier trails, built a life untethered. Betrayal didn't break me. It rebuilt me stronger. In the end, silence wasn't weakness. It was my sharpest weapon.